Lil Brunson back at you with the back at you, and I am the best reporting on the Eagles. Listen, man, listen. I kind of see the philosophy and I see the way that we're going. We're going to talk about it in this whiteboard segment. I see that we see what everybody else sees as far as the NFL is concerned. Everybody thinks that we weak in the cornerback position. I agree it's one of the weakest spots on the roster, but I also believe that we have an answer for that. I believe that we don't plan on giving anybody any time to abuse our cornerbacks, which is why we keep bringing in defensive tackles, defensive linemen, which is why we keep ramping up the competition. Now, this is the typical defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles. You got your two interior guys right here, then you got your edge rushers right here trying to collapse on the quarterback. That's usually how these things go for most teams in the NFL. Now, I'm real concerned about this position right here with Derek Barnett and his backups, Sharif Miller and all those guys that's going to be playing the edge, Vinny Curry, the Josh Sweats. I actually think Josh Sweat is going to make the roster. I'm not really concerned. I'm optimistic about how Brandon Graham and those guys are going to be able to get after the quarterback. I think that this is probably one of the strongest defensive lines the Philadelphia Eagles ever had. Now, when you're talking about defensive line play, these three levels of defense feed off each other: the defensive lines, the linebackers, and the secondary. Now, this is why I believe Blake Countess was let go. Now, Blake Countess is coming from a position on the third level, obviously a safety position. Sometimes I think he played a little bit of cornerback in his day, but primarily he's used as a safety. Now, in a particular defense where these guys, these safeties in the back, notice that this play is a run, they're often the last line of defense. You got two types of safeties in this world. You got some safeties that's going to tiptoe the line back here and just stay here and make sure this guy doesn't take it all the way home. And you got some safeties that's going to shoot these gaps and help out and help in run protection. Probably, in most cases, if they do it effectively, they're minimizing these gains to under 5 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry, 3 yards a carry, stuff like that. Now, in a Jim Schwartz style defense, as a defensive back, it's preferred that you're able to tackle. It's preferred that you're able to tackle. So with Blake Countess kind of coming down gingerly to this area and stopping right here instead of shooting the gap like a linebacker would, or like a Malcolm Jenkins would, or Rodney McLeod would, it left him out there to be cut. I think he actually did it to himself, because you got Jonathan Cyprin, who's doing a lot of that in practice, and Jonathan Cyprin looks like a candidate with Blake Countess now gone to make the roster, and I think he deserves it. Now, to Blake Countess' credit, he was injured. He had a hamstring situation, and they said it was going to be some weeks for it to heal. But a safety in a Jim Schwartz scheme has to be able to tackle. That's the bread and butter. Jim Schwartz would almost prefer, as one of my buddies, he left a comment that Jim Schwartz, and I agree, Jim Schwartz would actually prefer you be a good tackler and probably be a step slower. He would prefer that. He's not out there just looking for speed. He's out there looking for capable tackles from the safety position, because we lack that in some of our players at the cornerback position. Now, I think I can't think of that other safety's name. I know you guys know the guy that got ran over in the first preseason game. His name always slips my mind because I don't expect him to be out there for us anyway. I can't think. It's no way I think he's making the roster, especially with Blake Countess gone, Jonathan Cyprin stepping up. I mean, listen, man, the defensive line and the defensive backs, they're going to feed off each other a lot this year. I said it before in a video earlier. If the defensive line is able to get pressure, then it doesn't matter who's playing cornerback for us. It don't matter who's playing cornerback for anybody. If you got a stout defensive front, an intelligent defensive front, one that can sniff out screens, one that could be in two places at once, one that could get to the quarterback, then it's no problem about who you got back there in cornerback. But I believe our cornerbacks are very underrated. Now, I want to talk about something EDP actually sent me from, that show that Nick Wright is on with Chris Carter and all those guys. First Take, I think it is. I'm not sure. But, so Nick Wright is saying that Dak Prescott has these overwhelming intangibles that makes him kind of even towards Carson Wentz. But he also admitted that he wouldn't take Dak Prescott over to Carson Wentz. Now, I think that's just a cop-out, man. I think the tangibles thing is an excuse. I think these guys are always looking for ways to somehow make Dak Prescott on Carson Wentz's level, and instead of just accepting the truth that Dak Prescott is a mid-tier quarterback at best. Now, when I think of intangibles, I think of ways that he is showing without his arms and his legs, of how he's elevating the play of his team on the field. He named the dude being a good locker room guy or being a good leader. Is that resulting in elevated play? No, that's not resulting in elevated play. Now, I'll name some quarterbacks who had elite level intangibles. I think already Baker Mayfield just has that it factor. I think Baker Mayfield has intangibles that jump off of the chart. I think those intangibles include Baker Mayfield just dancing around before the kickoff even starts. You see his mindset, so how could you not be crumped and be happy to be beside a guy like that? Aaron Rodgers also has intangibles. Aaron Rodgers will look at a teammate with a stone face and they know to get the job done. Carson Wentz is trending towards intangibles like that. I don't see that out of Dak Prescott. As many times that I've seen Dak Prescott look like a deer in the headlights, I haven't seen that out of Carson Wentz at all in his entire career. So now it boils down to intangibles. It doesn't. It's null and void. It's null and void. We all know who the better quarterback is. If you had to line Carson Wentz up here with Dak Prescott, and the GMs had to say, I want to pick one, who do you think they're going to pick? If you had to start your franchise today with Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott, who are you going to pick? Case closed. End the discussion. We all know who you're going to pick because it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Now, this thing with the defensive line that I'm harping on so much is because I was disappointed with the defensive line last year. I actually was. The only person that I really felt like brought the heat and brought the pain was Michael Bennett, who's no longer with us. I think Derek Barnett coming back is going to be really, really huge for us. I think some of the young guys like Josh Sweat stepping up and also talks about Jadeveon Clowney. They keep ramping up. So what is going to happen with this defensive line? I think if you go and get Jadeveon Clowney, I think that somebody that is young and up and coming is gone. I think they're gone. You know what I mean? I don't see a problem with renting Jadeveon Clowney for a year. If you go and get Jadeveon Clowney, you completely dismiss all questions of who has the best defensive line in football. Jadeveon Clowney is a game changer. And if they got somebody that they can give away, and if it's a go, and if they agree to it, I would go for it. Because we're shooting for a Super Bowl. We're not shooting to be safe. What if Jadeveon Clowney wants to get played next year? Either we pay him or we don't. It's about getting them now. We got all these pieces together. It's about getting them now and protecting these cornerbacks and these defensive backs. It'll be a sad situation in Philadelphia if we got to turn on the TV week 7 and we're talking about poor cornerback play. We knew that could be a concern right now. What are we doing to address it? You either beef up the defensive line, or you get some cornerbacks who's going to go out there and play to your liking. There's your only two options to fixing your cornerback problem, because pressure from the defensive line will get the cornerbacks enough time to stay with their man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.